Hello everyone, this is UWC On Air. My name is Robin Adams. Thrilled to have your company. Here's what's coming up on the show.
Regarding that color that you chose, did you choose pink?
No.
You've seen it in the movies, but just how do lie detector tests work? Believe it or not, they're actually quite common in a number of South African industries. We'll also look at the legalities around polygraph analysis. With World Prematurity Day just ahead, we hear from those who survived and thrived to incredible stories that are sure to tug at the heartstrings.
Somebody has a right to us, please.
It is World Prematurity Day on November 17th. Preemies or prem babies have long been regarded as special human beings. Every year, around 15 million of them are born preterm. That's 1 in every 10 babies. Sadly, not all of them survive. But here's the story of one who did and defied all the odds.
That day was the 21st of September 1988. I was 6 months pregnant. I only discovered when I was 4 months that I was actually pregnant, and so I had this funny feeling, and when I went to the bathroom, I saw that I started bleeding, and then I was rushed immediately to hospital. At that time, I was taken to Groote Hospital because there was no MOUs around at that time, and when I arrived at Groote Hospital, they said to me that I'm in labor and baby's coming, and the fact that baby's coming, it's very early and they can't guarantee anything. Very scary, unknown space, unknown place. My mom wasn't with me. My mom was having her hysterectomy also at Groote Hospital. And I was extremely scared. I was afraid of the unknown. I was afraid of what could have happened. But as I went into the labor ward, they pushed me in, and that was around about 10 o'clock in the morning. And in the morning of the 21st of September, at 20 to 1, I gave birth to Natasha. She was just over a kilogram. Doctors told me that she was not going to live very long. Her lungs were not fully developed. We'll take it day by day. She got older. She was in the hospital for 2 months, and she was released after 2 months, 2.5 months, at weighing 2 kilograms, just over 2.1 kilograms. And the doctor said she's going to have a learning disability. She might have developed a hearing problem. They suspect all kinds of things. They said to me that my daughter is going to be, in the olden days they would use the word retarded because it was in the apartheid era. And I said, that's whatever you say, I don't believe in that report. I know that I've prayed, and I know that I've God, and I know that I have faith in God. And it was different when she went to university. They told her that she was not accepted at the university, and then I spoken to them and I said, no, you have to accept her. And then the humanities faculty at UWC accepted her, and when she started off, she was on the Dean's Merit List because of her grades. And today she's 34 years old. She has her own son, which was also born prematured. And through that process of her being prematured, it made me more aware, more cognizant about the world, the way we live, because of the nature of my profession as a social worker, that I would always encourage people to be healthy in their pregnancy. Make sure that you don't smoke or drink. Make sure that you don't use any toxic alcohol or toxins or anything that can harm your baby and your body, because it's very important. Because if we're ignorant, we need to be educated around these things.
For me, I just figured I was a normal kid because I was around playing with my cousins, doing me, just being me. My granny always used to say, every year on my birthday, she'll tell me the story. So she's like, they said you weren't going to live through the night. They said you weren't going to be able to breathe on your own, that you'd be living on oxygen if you survived. They said you wouldn't be able to walk. They said you wouldn't be able to talk. They said you wouldn't be able to read. You'd be able to do nothing. You'd just be an invalid if we were lucky enough to have you alive. And then she's like, but with God, everything is possible. And she's like, I prayed for you all the time in that hospital. I prayed and prayed until the day they said you can come home. In my younger, I think in early 20s, then I was so upset about these doctors telling me all the time, you're not going to be able to have kids. I started saying I don't want kids. So I was telling everyone, I don't want to be married, I don't want kids. I'm fine with being just me and having this career and doing me, basically, just living my life. So I decided during the pandemic, I'm not gonna mope around. I am going to buy a house. And then, yes, I went out searching for a house, found a house, got the house. I moved in, I think I was there for 2 months. Then last year, then I found out I was pregnant. I was extremely overwhelmed. I can't even explain to you the mix of emotions. Even now, like every day when I look at Caleb, I'm filled with so much happiness and joy, but just so much gratitude. It really is the best thing. The moment I found out I was pregnant, because I was like, because the doctor said your body just won't be able to accommodate pregnancy. Not your size, not your shape, not anything. You are too petite, and there can be a lot of complications with just birthing. He's 7 months now. He's a very tall baby. He didn't weigh 2.5 when he was born. He weighed just under 3 kilos, 2.9. It's so weird. So Caleb also has this prematurity thing, but his doctor says it's just a smidge of prematurity. So for the last 10 years, I've been working as the production and editorial coordinator in the media and marketing office at the University of the Western Cape. From being told that I would never be able to read or write, I actually now do those things for a living. So I coordinate the university's corporate publications, and it's a lot of fun. There's never a day that's the same as the one before.
No, she wasn't actually naughty. She was net, when you used to talk to her, like for instance, I said to her, don't do that. But she was 9 years old already. I said, Tess, you mustn't do that. Then she get cross, then she pick up a bag, then she go sit at the bus stop. I got lekker hiding. I used to give her a good whack. And after that, everything was all right. She's my first grandchild. She was spoiled. We used to take her with the bus every morning, 7:15 bus, with Denver bus, take her to school, come with the fetch to come back with her. And then with all the activities in school, I always supported her because her mother was working. I supported her. She was quite fine. She went to St. Raffi's and Athlone. There they went to school. Until 5 years, until she was standard 5, So I had no problem with her. When she went to standard 6, I had to take her back to Grootskeur. They phoned me to say I must come back because they want to see how Tasha's growing and how her life is, And as we were going there, the nurses, there was the old matrons used to come and say to Mrs. Davis, "Where's Natasha? We want to show her something." Tasha was so groot, soos 'n witte rotjie. This was her size. I couldn't believe it. Then the nurses used to knit like 4 rows with the stitches. Then they showed me, they said to Mr. David, this is just to put on here to keep them warm, the brain warm. I've reared 10 children, and with Natasha's grandchild, it was 11. But it was awesome. So there was no problems with that, So when I got the results from Grootskeur, it was number 1. I was there's nothing wrong with her. She's fine. Everything is in order and Emily. But Tasha's a very witty girl. Very clever. She's very slim. She's a very clever child,
And here's another incredible preemie story, another miracle. UWC student and young father Morne Hayes recalls the day his life changed forever.
Okay, so while it was an ordinary day in April 2019, myself and my wife went for a check-up at the gynecologist as she was 32 weeks pregnant. When we arrived there, the doctor did a scan and also discovered that there was some glucose in her urine. The doctor immediately told her that she needed to go up to maternity ward. They kept her in the hospital for the Thursday, the Friday, and the Saturday. By the Sunday, they phoned me to inform me that while they were doing their checks, they didn't find any heartbeat from baby. So what they did was they phoned me and I went in immediately. When I got there, obviously I was panicking. I was in a terrible state and a lot went through my mind. And they immediately rushed her into the theater where they asked me as well to get ready for, they're going to take or do a C-section. They then performed the C-section and informed us just before they did the C-section that the baby did not make it at all. So while they were busy with the C-section, I actually spoken to my wife and she told me to relax because if this was part of God's plan, then so be it. When the C-section was done and they took the baby out, the baby immediately screamed. And that was something that we did not expect, as well something that the doctors did not expect. So they rushed the baby to the NICU and they asked me to follow. I was sitting in the waiting room while they do their checks and performs CPR and whatever they did. They then discovered that the baby was actually well and breathing. It was something that my wife and I could not believe at that point, but also became aware that God has been faithful. So my daughter is well at this point. She's 3 years of age, alive and kicking like any normal toddler would be.
Nobody has the right to hurt me.
Welcome back. World Prematurity Day is still very much in sharp focus here on UWC On Air. Here's Professor Karen Minnie. She's from our Community Health and Sciences faculty talking about the advances made with regards to neonatal care and prematurity, and also the new course on offer at the university for advanced midwifery.
Yeah, prematurity is really unfortunate and it affects about 1 out of every 10 births, so it's quite a large population, but many of them are not very immature, so they can be helped with rather low-tech strategies like skin-to-skin care for the mother to keep warm, breastfeeding instead of drips, but the very small ones need very specialized care, that they need to be nursed sometimes for many weeks or even months in a neonatal ICU, NICU, and there's lots of advances in that, and it's really a very specialized field.
120. Did you finish?
Our students, that's midwifery, that's part of their work, are to look after small babies also, but they're not intensive care nurses specifically, so they do touch on some of those things, but it will be things like how to assist the baby to be as close as possible to a baby that's still in utero. So it's things like how to position the baby, how to keep the baby warm, how to ensure that the baby gets enough fluid, how to recognize if there's any problems. It's a postgraduate diploma in midwifery, but it's for people that's already midwives. And so it's a postgraduate also, so they already got a degree. So after this, they can be registered as specialist midwives at the South African Nursing Council.
Lie detector tests. You've seen them in your favorite soapies, you've seen them in the movies, but how do they actually work? Believe it or not, They are common practice in a variety of workplaces across the country. Cash in transit guarding, that's one example. Jewelry manufacturing, transport and logistics. We want to look at the technical side of it as well as the legal side of polygraph testing. And to that end, we've roped in the experts. These are their stories.
This is Ben Lombard. He is a polygraph expert and one of the best in the business. Lombard has been in this particular line of work for 20 years and has done more than 30,000 lie detector tests. And today, I am one of his subjects.
Regarding that color that you chose, did you choose pink?
No. Lombard says that he has seen and heard it all.
There are different types of testing that we can do. The one is pre-employment polygraph screening, which is becoming very popular with lots of companies out there, whereby we can determine a lot of stuff. You may not have a criminal record, but committed crimes. You could have committed murder and not be caught. So pre-employment screenings really assist in keeping the rotten apple out of the box. And so there's a variety of stuff. We can look at, have you ever been fired or forced to resign from a previous job? We could look at previous use of drugs. We could look at criminal elements. We can look at maybe you're part of a crime syndicate. The other one is what we refer more as specific or diagnostic testing. Diagnostic testing is when the money went missing from a safe, there are 10 people working there, or whatever the case may be, and I've got to find out who is the possible suspect in that case. Then we also have lots of cases, especially when it comes to sexual harassment, where it's a case and child abuse type of thing, where he says, she says, we've got to determine who's telling the truth, or assist in determining who's telling the truth and who's lying.
So now you've heard the technical side of it, let's explore the legal ramifications with Robert Nanima, Associate Professor at UWC's Faculty of Law.
From the onset, a lie detector test or a polygraph test is to test the truthfulness of something that has been said, and the legalities are more so about to what extent can such evidence be admitted in evidence. What does it mean if an employer says you have to take the test and the employee is saying you don't have to take? The legalities around consent. A person has to consent to the taking of the test. And secondly, the person has to know what the test is about before he consents. What is the nature of the test? Why is it being taken? Who will it be when it talk about the findings? Whom will they be disclosed to? What is the purpose? So it's making an informed decision to have a polygraph test.
Can you refuse to take a lie detector test when you're an employee of a company?
Yes, in my view, yes, an employee can refuse, because taking the test should be based on an informed decision, not based on undue influence. Not based on the fact that if you don't take the test, you will not have the job, or you will not get a promotion, or you will not stay in employment. No, it's from the position that we want to have some truths unearthed, and that's why you're taking the test. So an employee has the right to refuse the test.
What is the legal recourse you can take if you fail a lie detector test?
That's a very good question. Recourse could be both from the process, could be with regard to the process itself, or with regard to an actual remedy. In terms of the process, the recourse would be to ask court, if you're already in court, not to admit that evidence, because once it's admitted, it might be used against you. The other is if you have you've refused to take a test and you're going to be fired, or you're going to lose your job. Then the recourse would be to go to court, to ask court for an order not to have you lose your job. Reason being, the test does not mean that you did something. So recourse could be to court if you're not yet in court, and if you are in court, to have that evidence not to be admitted because of the processes that were taken in having the evidence produced in court.
And Lombard has this message for those who believe they can cheat the system.
There are only two ways to beat the polygraph. The one is tell the truth. The other one is don't do the test.
Plenty more ahead on UWC On Air, including a focus on our alumni. And this week's guest in our Them and Now segment is Eddie Andrews, former Springbok rugby star, political science student. He's the Deputy Mayor of Cape Town. He's a husband. He's a father. He wears so many hats. We'll hear from him in a moment. Eddie Andrews is a name many might remember from the South African rugby scene in the early 2000s. The boykie from the Cape Flats came good, played his way into the Springbok rugby team, also ran out for Western Province and the Stormers. He shares his journey from his political science student days here at UWC to his current job as the Deputy Mayor of Cape Town.
So my name is Eddie Andrews. I'm currently the Deputy Mayor in the City of Cape Town. I'm also the Mayoral Committee member for Spatial Planning and the Environment. I am a Mitchells Plain boykie. I have been married to one woman for the past 23 years. We have 3 amazing children, a 20-year-old daughter, a 17-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. And that's who I am. And now currently for the past 11 years being in politics and scrumming down for a different team. Of course, most people remember me as a rugby player and having played professionally for Western Province, the Stormers and the Springboks. And coming from Mitchells Plain, it does give you sort of a platform to go back and help and communicate a very important message that you can achieve success irrespective of what your circumstances try and dictate to you. So currently I am still a student at UWC. I graduated earlier this year, 2022 it is, and I have graduated in a Bachelor of Administration. I've majored in political science and political or public administration and still studying this year. I'm already part-time. I've got year 1 in my honours. I've just sort of concluding my last block week. I've got an outstanding essay they have to write. So Prof, if you're listening, hopefully you can assist me there. I'm busy doing UWC, very important work for UWC. And next year I have got my final, my second year of my honours degree in public administration. So I think if I go back to my time as a professional rugby player, the most important moment for me was the very first game that I played on 12th of June 2004 in Bloemfontein. My first game for the Springboks. We played against Ireland and I was singing the national anthem. And I was very overwhelmed at the opportunity that I have to represent my country and was crying when I was singing the anthem. Purely because, you know, you come from a community where people don't expect you to be successful. And here you don't go through the normal processes, the good rugby playing school, the strong clubs. I came from a club that played in the 4th division and I attended a school that's out on the Cape Flats. And so that's not the norm. And that to me, the first game when I played for the Springboks was really for me a very important highlight because it's not just about that moment, but it's a moment in time where you can now communicate a very simple message. And I mentioned it earlier, that you can achieve success irrespective of your circumstances if you don't decide to conform. And all along through my career, I was mindful of the platform that I have, that message that I want to amplify. And now I have a platform to amplify the message. I then approached government with a project we were doing in Mitchells Plain in the Cape Flats and saying, we are having a program, a rugby skills program. We need assistance from Team Cape Town to provide resources. And they said, we can't help you with all of the other stuff, but there's one area that we can help you. And I accepted the offer and started engaging with the political principal at the time for social development. And at some stage he said, well, why don't you consider standing as a candidate in the ward where you stay? I had no desire to do that. Politics was as foreign to me as snow is to Cape Town, well, parts of Cape Town at least. And just thought about it, prayed about it, and eventually decided if I step into politics, I have a platform to influence processes and help my community in a meaningful way. And that is why I stepped into it. And 2011, the first municipal elections I participated in, and 11 years later, I'm still much in politics, scrumming down for a different team, but still seeing how I can help my community that I spent most of my life in. So an ordinary life in family, day in my family would be the kids, dad, they've got a whole list of stuff that they need. Dad, I need this, dad, I need that. But I think ultimately we just enjoy spending time at home. In the dining room, conversationing casually, because those moments we don't always have, often we have those opportunities, but the fact that we have those moments, that's important to me. And just sort of fighting for those opportunities to engage together recreationally as a family. So if you're in public office, you have 5 years to make a meaningful impact. And if you ask me, Eddie, what it is that you would want to have achieved as the mayoral committee member for spatial planning and the environment, it would be the following: ensuring that the informal economy, not just talking about what's happening in informal settlements, but how do we, the levers within our directorate, how do we enable you a lot more, whether you're trading informally in Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, Nyango, any other area on the Cape Flats, how do we assist you? And in a practical way, if you have plans to renovate your home, you want to operate a business, how do we assist you? How do we clarify the process? How do we have our spatial transformation levers benefit you? And that's ultimately what we are keen to do in a practical way, that we short circuit processes to ensure that you are a lot more enabling as an entrepreneur. One other project that I'm very excited about, the small scale rental. How do we assist residents who are now becoming developers and building and renovating and building blocks of flats in the Khayelitsha, Manenberg, Cape Flats, East Reach, of course, and Nyanga? How do we assist you with legislation so you can build your flats? But it's about building the flats. The flats ultimately become a passive income for you. And of course, that's one of the many aspects, how we create generation wealth in communities where there's not been that in the past period. And that's what we'd like to see. Only 2 points, but I think just part of my vision, what we want to observe after this term has come and gone.
Come with the hour, come with the rain. Next week on UWC On Air, the S word, stress. So many of us battle with it. Psychologist Bradley Knight is on hand to talk us through coping mechanisms. Also, a look at one of the Cape's best kept secrets, Philippi Village, a multi-purpose community centre, and the work they do for the people of the area. There's a UW's graduate helping to run the show there. Siobhan Bartman has a great story to tell. That's all happening next week. And that is all of our time. Thank you so much for watching. Reach out with your comments, complaints, suggestions, ideas, anything, everything. The contact details on your screen right now from myself, Robin Adams, and the rest of the team. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
I was born to perform.